Yo guys, welcome back. Today we're doing a complete Hailey build guide covering mobbing, firearms, and Zenith. We're going in depth on many topics. I suggest listening to the details. If I'm talking about it in this video, it is a key to playing her. I will attempt to cover and answer every question I have seen about her and share whatever knowledge I have about playing her. I have done a lot of Hailey videos, but with her rise in popularity due to her insane damage in Infernal Walker, I wanted to get everything in one place for new, returning, and veteran players. So let's get into it. First, we will cover her mobbing build. Before we get into the actual build, I would like to cover some pros and cons of mobbing on Hailey. When mobbing on Hailey, just understand you will be outperformed by many of the other mobbing descendants, such as Freyna, Bunny, Viessa, and so on. She relies on using a gun for mobbing, which in this meta is a huge disadvantage, but I will say it is a pleasure to play and a refreshing way to mob in this game. With this setup, she is built like a tank, can clear rooms on her own, and when it's time for the dungeon bosses, they do not stand a chance. And with that out of the way, let's get into the modules. We are using a Transcendent module here. Cryogenic Cluster Shot modifies the cryo effect to cryogenic, reducing the number of maximum stacks and effective strength, with dealing additional AoE damage to nearby enemies when the effect is removed. So this will be our main ability that we will be using, and we will be wanting to spam this as much as possible. So with this build, I have brought this to a 2-second cooldown. It is possible to have this on a 1.5-second cooldown, but I found that 2 seconds is just fine for the way that I have it set up. And our second main ability here will be Cold Fury, and this will be giving us firearm critical hit rate and firearm critical hit damage increases. And we can see what that looks like, and I will also show what the damage looks like when using this. And our main star of the show when showing this off will be Albion Calvary. So we will put Cold Fury on. We will come into our stats page and we will just check what it's doing to our firearm critical hit rate. And we are not maxing critical hit rate on these guns, but we are trying to get it as high as possible with still doing a good amount of damage. So on this, we have a 72%. On our new Volita weapon, we have an 82%. And let's see what this looks like in action. We will apply it. We will shoot our Calvary. And this is pretty much what you're going for. And now let's cover the rest of the modules I have gone with. And a big one here that I want to cover is anti-freeze solution. It is not a must probably for everybody, but to me it is. When dungeoning on this character, she will get frozen a lot. She is a slow moving target, and basically the only stun in this game is when the enemy freezes you, and that is not good. It is a DPS loss, and it is also a good chance of dying. So I have chosen to put this as a mainstay module on this build. Past that, we are running Focus on Chill, MP Conversion, and Nimble Fingers for our cooldown. Like I said, you could get more cooldown if you wanted to run Focus on Singular. That will be up to you. I have chosen not to, as I find 2 seconds to be fine, and there's other things that I preferred to put into this build. We are running 2 skill cost modules, Maximize Conservation and Strong Mentality. We are running 2 HP modules, HP Amplification and Increased HP, and then we're running Skill Expansion to increase the range of our cryogenic shot. And after that, the last one I'm running is HP Collector. I have tried MP Collector, but with all this skill cost, it is unnecessary. And running HP Collector with all this HP, you're basically just a walking tank. And now we will head into our reactor. We are running a chill singular reactor, and I have mounted pretty much the guns that I will be using most of the time. I would say if you're running Albion Calvary, machine gun is very necessary. And if you're running Volita, beam rifle is very necessary. For our substats, skill cooldown is a must in my opinion to keep the cooldown on your 1 as low as possible. For your second, chill is a good option. Singular is a good option. Range is also a good option. And for our set, I'm running the Annihilation Set. This gives good HP, good defense, and firearm attack when we were down in health. And this is mainly a firearm attack based build, so this works great. For our auxiliary power, max HP, MP recovery out of combat. Sensor, max MP, MP recovery in combat. For our memory, defense, MP recovery modifier, and for our processor, max shield, shield recovery modifier. Another great option for a set, I just do not have a good stat roll of it, is going to be the Polar Knight set that you can get from Dead Bride. And the 4-set bonus is actually very good for this build. So if you have this with the right substats, this is also a very good option. And all of these peaches give HP and shield, which is very effective for this build. And now we will go over our firearms. I will say that Albion Calvary is the best for this build, and I would suggest if you plan on playing mobbing Hailey a lot to build this weapon. It outperforms Volita by a lot, I would say. Volita is nice in Void Vessel, but even in there, the Albion Calvary is just a better gun for her build. Looking into the Albion Calvary, for our substats, we have firearm attack, firearm critical hit damage, and firearm critical hit rate. As for our fourth, we have bonus firearm attack versus Legion of Darkness. This can be swapped out for something like rounds per magazine or chill damage. They both work effectively. As for our build, this is a sharp precision shot build. We have our firearm attack mods, crit hit rate, crit damage mods, our magazine size mods, our fire rate up, and our chill enhancement. And the reason I've gone for chill enhancement is Legion of Darkness are vulnerable to this, and being that Void Vessel is the newest content, and that is Legion of Darkness, that is what we will be going with. Up next, we have the Volita. For this, firearm attack, firearm critical hit damage, firearm critical hit rate, and bonus firearm attack versus Legion of Darkness. Once again, a effective roll for that fourth one can be magazine size or chill attack. For this, we are using super cooled plasma. We are running our two firearm attack mods. We have compulsive magazine and expand weapon charge for our mag size, recycling genius for a better reload speed because this gun does struggle with reload speed, fire rate up, and chill enhancement once again. Now I do run the Smithereens as it is a boss melter. We are running firearm attack, bonus firearm attack versus Colossus, firearm critical hit damage, and weakpoint damage. Weakpoint damage can be substituted for a element if you can get it rolled. Into the build for this is a real life fighter build, action and reaction, rifling reinforcement for our firearm attack. We have our crit damage mods, no crit rate mods, as the unique ability will give us our crit rate, fire rate up, shell up, and we're running a chill setup. But I would suggest if you are endgame in this game, for you to slot every element into these two, because when it comes to firearms in endgame, right now this is one of the best guns, especially if you're using Glay. But even not on Glay, this is a great gun to have in your 3-gun arsenal. And for our last gun, I will just show it during Legacy because once again, this is a great boss slayer as well. Firearm attack, firearm critical hit damage, bonus firearm attack versus Colossus, and firearm critical hit rate. We have a sharp precision shot build, and we will be covering this build in her firearm attack section of the guide. And to get into our inversion reinforcement, I am running Adrenaline Rush. I prefer to have the movement speed, especially with the negative movement speed that Cold Fury will be giving us. And then we also have the capstone for this bottom tree, and skill effect range plus 0.8%, skill power plus 0.6%, 15 sacks, and this lasts until you die. So this is going to be great for our first ability, which we'll be spamming. Then we have chill focus rounds, as we are running chill on most of our weapons, and the capstone on this tree also adds to that, and heightened sensory cells to give us a little heal if we are close to dying, and will also give us a boost to our max MP. And now we will move on to Hailey's firearm build, which we just showcased, and I hope you guys enjoyed that gameplay. One of my favorite setups in the game, and I believe when it comes to firearm builds, Hailey is at the top of the list, S+ tier if you will. And why? Well, we will show you right here. The biggest advantage that Hailey has is the self buff to crit hit rate and crit hit damage that she gives with Cold Fury. So before we activate that and look at what it does, let's check what our Enduring Legacy stats are currently. We are at 31% firearm critical hit rate and 7.7% firearm critical hit damage. And just by simply activating Cold Fury, and we will wait for it to get up to its maximum stacks, we are at 95% critical hit rate and 8.1 times multiplier for critical hit damage. No other Descendant in the game can provide themselves with this type of buff, which is why when it comes to firearms, there is no one that can touch her. And now that we have gone over Cold Fury, let's go over her first ability, Cyro Rounds. Fires a cryo round at enemies in front to deal damage and inflict cryo. Targets inflicted with cryo receive additional damage and lose 1 stack when hit by Hailey's firearm attack. So simply what this does is each shot that you take with a firearm, it'll add an additional hit for 50% of that damage, and it has 10 stacks. For this build, we have brought this to a 4.5 second cooldown, hoping that we can get this additional damage on each of our firearm hits. So let's see what that looks like, and it's very simple. We use our 1, we shoot 1 bullet. As you can see, there's 2 hits there, 1 for 18k, 1 for 9k. Once again, and once again. And now we will talk about her passive ability, Safe Strategic Retreat. Proportional to the distance between the target and Hailey, the Weakpoint damage decreases the closer it is to the target and increases the further it is. Okay, so for the maximum, you need 25 meters or more for a Weakpoint damage maximum increase of 50%. As you can see here, I am at that 25 meters, and I will zoom in on the target, and you can see on the right side of our 4 abilities, it is full. That means we have hit the 25 meters, and as we get closer, we will lose that weak point damage, and as we continue to get too close, we will actually get negative weak point damage, which is very bad, so be sure to keep your distance on Hailey if you are going for weak points. We will be covering 2 types of firearm builds. The first, which you've seen on Stalker, which is the shield build, and the second, which you've seen on Swamp Walker, which is going to be our low HP build. First, we will do the shield build, and this is a overwhelming shield build. So of course, that is our staple mod. This turns our HP into shield, so we will want to stack as much HP and shield as possible. For that, we have chosen increased shield, HP conversion shield, increased HP, and HP amplification. Now, to heal our shield as we take damage, we have put on Biosync Shield, which simply restores shield when you pick up HP orbs. Since this is a firearm attack build, we have gone with Shot Focus for our firearm damage, and we are only running 1 cooldown mod, being MP conversion. This has changed since last season due to the inversion tree changing, which she has more of a need to slot skill cost mods right now. So maximum conservation and strong mentality are a must to keep your Cold Fury up in a long fight like Stalker. Now for our reactor, this has also changed since last season. I have chosen to go with a cooldown cost reactor, and I am matching chill skill and dimension for our first ability to give it as much damage as possible, but I will say that this is not a must. The must here is to have skill cooldown and cost. It doesn't matter really what reactor you put on. Chill would be ideal, but the thing is that this first ability does not do a lot of damage. I can have a run of Deathstalker where I do 100 million damage, and the first skill will net me about 8 to 10 million. And it does not change much with matching it with Dimension. Now, for my external components, I do run something slightly different than most. I happen to have a very nice 2-piece of the Decimator set to add just a little bit more firearm critical hit rate. This is not a must for the build, but to min-max, I would say this is. So I'm running a 2-piece Decimator and a 2-piece Invader set, and I will show other options if you do not have these sets. For our auxiliary power, max HP, MP recovery out of combat. For our sensor, max MP, MP recovery in combat. For our memory, defense and MP recovery modifier. And for our processor, max shield and toxin resist, mainly for Deathstalker, so his initial hits and his poison hits do not knock you down as fast. And for other options on our component sets, there is the 2-piece Invader and the 2-piece Annihilation. Though the skill duration does not do anything for us, both of these give max HP, which is going to give us a bump in our shields. So as opposed to the last build where I had 21,000 shield, this one now has 23,000 shield. And for a third option for our 2 sets would be Invader 2-piece and Slayer 2-piece. The Slayer 2 set actually does have an advantage, as will give you more general rounds and will actually give you 10 more bullets in each magazine for Enduring Legacy. Other than that, if you do not have these sets, I would suggest just matching the substats that I have shown and being sure that the main stat on the component has max HP so you can get as much shield as possible. And before we get into the guns, as I said, I will show you a low HP build to maximize our firearm attack as much as possible. And this build is only relevant for the early hard Colossus. I would not bring this into anything past Gluttony. So we are running Conditional Recharge. And what does this do? Basically, when we use a skill, this takes away our health. Why? Well, because that will proc something like Walk a Tightrope when HP is 50% or lower, firearm attack plus 30%, and it also procs our set bonus on the 4-piece Annihilation set to give even more firearm attack. So how do you put this into practice? And it's quite simple. When you spawn into the Colossus fight, just simply spawn in and spam your Cold Fury over and over while you're waiting for the fight to start. And that is all it takes. Let's get back into the mods. Like I said, Conditional Recharge and Walk a Tightrope, and then we have Shot Focus for our added firearm attack. Past that, this is all pretty much quality of life things here, basically min-maxing the damage of our first ability, though it is not much, and also getting that first ability up as much as possible. So to do that, we have run Focus on Dimension, Focus on Chill, MP Conversion, and Nimble Fingers for the skill power and the cooldown. For more skill power, Glacial Syncytium and Spear and Shield, and for just a little skill cost, we're running Strong Mentality. I would say you can pretty much run this build like this if you really wanted to. To me, this is one of the most budget builds in the game that can tackle pretty much every early hard Colossus. And now let's move into our reactor. It is the same one that we were running on our last firearm attack build, the shield one. Chill, skill power, dimension skill power, cooldown, and skill cost. Skill cooldown is pretty much what you are worried about here. And as for our set, like I said, the Annihilation set for the bonus firearm attack. For our auxiliary power, max HP, MP recovery out of combat. For our sensor, max MP, MP recovery in combat. For our memory, MP recovery modifier and defense. And for our processor, shield recovery modifier and max shield. And now we will get into our firearms for this build. First, Enduring Legacy, which is our staple gun for this build, firearm attack, firearm critical hit damage, bonus firearm attack versus Colossus, and firearm critical hit rate. Critical hit rate can be also swapped out for Weakpoint or fire attack. They pretty much equal out to the same, but being that I play Hailey and a lot of critical hit rate Descendants, such as Enzo and Valby, I prefer to have firearm critical hit rate here. As for our build, this is a sharp precision shot build. We are running 2 fire enhancement mods. We of course have our critical hit rate mods and our critical hit damage mods, fire rate up, expand weapon charge, and firearm attack mods. Now, like I said earlier, Smithereens is a great bossing option, I believe, as your second weapon for Stalker. When he is down, simply get up to him and blast him with this, and you will do a ton of damage now that the magazine has 15 shots, and you also have another magazine with 15 shots, and the reload time on this is not too bad. For me, I have firearm attack, bonus firearm attack versus Colossus, firearm critical hit damage, and weak point damage. As for the build, it is similar to Executor, real life fighter setup. We have our critical hit damage mods, but no critical hit rate mods, as the unique ability will provide us with this. We have our firearm attack mods, 1 weak point sight, fire rate up, shell up, which is adding shell capacity. So basically more pellets in each shot. Okay, it doesn't have anything to do with the overall ammo. And I'm still working on this, but the ideal setup for this gun would have 2 of the elemental enhancement mods. So I have chill enhancement and chill priority. If you are fighting something like Gluttony, you would want fire enhancement, fire priority, and so on. Now, I would like to go over Greg's, as this is still a very good gun. We have firearm attack, firearm critical hit damage, weak point damage, and bonus firearm attack versus Colossus. And we are running a fire conductor build. We have our firearm attack mods, our weak point mods, which the bombardments scale off of weak point hits, and then we have our fire rate up and our critical hit rate, critical hit damage mods. Now, as for our 4th weapon, it is just a basic general rounds weapon. I have chosen this because it has the least rounds per magazine, and it is a handgun, so you move around fast with it. You can do 2 things with this. There's Firing Fiesta, which I will show, and this is mainly used for general rounds economy. So when you see a general rounds brick on the floor, you switch to this gun and you pick up the ammo, because now you will get max general rounds plus 60%, max general rounds plus 50%. And this can be also used to pick up special rounds. When picking up the special rounds, you will also receive general rounds. Now, let me show you what I'm talking about with Firing Fiesta, and it's quite simple. So at the start of the fight, I will fire 1 bullet ahead of time. I will reload, I will switch to my Enduring Legacy, and I will shoot, and I will get 3 seconds of free rounds, which is revving up our sharp precision shot, which in terms is also giving us more max damage. And now for our Inversion Reinforcement, I am running Adrenaline Rush, Chill Focused Rounds, and Heightened Sensory Cells. And what I'm sure everyone is here for is the Zenith build. Right now, top of the meta for Infernal Walker, and as I have shown, can put down almost all of the Hard Colossus with ease. Once again, S tier from Hailey with her Zenith build, and I believe with her Firearm build and skill damage build, she is the top of the S tier bossing Descendants in this game at the moment. Before we continue, when it comes to one-phasing Infernal Walker, you will be lucky to do that 1 of every 50 attempts. You will do damage, die, respawn, and finish him off. That's how it works. Now let's head to the lab where we can talk about how Zenith actually works. Okay, so now we will cover how Zenith actually applies the damage. So we will activate our Cold Fury. We will go into Zenith. Now, when shooting the weapon, you will hit for 2 instances of damage. One is the skill side, and one is the firearm attack side, which is coming from your weapon. Your weapon does not affect your skill damage. It is its own hit. As we will see here, we have 2 hits. Okay, the skill power hit will pretty much always outweigh the firearm hit. And now we will add in our first ability, Cyro Rounds. Fires a cryo round at enemies in front to deal damage and inflict cryo. Targets with cryo stacks receive additional damage and lose 1 stack when hit by Hailey's firearm attack. So in Zenith, we are hitting with a firearm attack, which is going to be that second number that we will see that is coming from our weapon that we have out. What does this do? It hits for an additional hit for half of the firearm attack damage. So let's put this into practice. We will proc our Cold Fury. We will get into Zenith. We will hit the enemy with our first ability, applying these stacks. And now we will shoot and we will see 3 numbers. 1 is the skill damage, 1 is the firearm attack damage, and 1 is half of that firearm attack hit. And now to cover her second ability, Storm Snare. This is only affected by skill power. This will not be affected by the firearm that you have equipped. It is not like Zenith in any way like that. And lastly, for her abilities, we will talk about her passive. Proportional to the distance between the target and Hailey, the weak point damage decreases the closer it is to the target and increases the further. So our mid distance is 12.5 meters. Our maximum distance is 25 meters to get the most out of it, which is going to be a 50% weak point damage increase. Where do you see this? Well, you see this on the right side of your 4 abilities. It is the little aimer. And as you can see, it is fully blue. So we are at our maximum distance and we are getting the most out of it. But as you will move closer to the target, you will see that that bar begins to dissipate. And as you continue to get closer, you will continue to lose weak point damage. So you want to be sure to not do that. And I would suggest to be at the maximum, which on Hailey with her Zenith and the range it has, that is not very hard. And now with all that out of the way, let's get into the build. We are not running any Transcendent module as it does not do anything. This is the Zenith Burst build. Okay, you will have horrible cooldown on this build. Our Zenith has a 45-second cooldown. I would not suggest running this unless you are attempting to one phase or if you are attempting to just do damage, die, respawn, and repeat. I would not bring this into pubs as well. For our mods, we are running Chill Specialist, Maximize Power, Glacial Syncytium, Spear and Shield, and Dangerous Ambush for our skill power. We are running all 4 critical hit rate, critical hit damage mods, and 1 HP mod, HP Amplification, which will help you survive most of her beginning attacks. So you can deal the damage, die, respawn, and repeat, or this is also helpful for attempting the one phase. Now, for a cooldown build, which I would suggest for public play, we are putting on Focus on Chill, Focus on Singular, MP Conversion. We are still running our 4 critical hit rate, critical hit damage mods, along with Dangerous Ambush and HP Amplification. If you would like to have more survivability and you are not worried about Dangerous Ambush, you can simply swap that out for more HP. And now onto our reactor. I have a Frozen Singularity, Chill skill power, Singular skill power, and I have hand cannon and sniper rifle mounting. We want additional attack when attacking Colossus and skill critical hit damage. A secondary to skill critical hit damage would be singular damage. They are not that far off, but the Colossus damage is definitely a must. And for our set, we are running the Slayer set. There is no other set that you should be running here. For auxiliary power, max HP, MP recovery out of combat. For our sensor, max MP, MP recovery in combat. For our memory, MP recovery modifier in defense. And for our processor, max shield and shield recovery modifier. Now on to the big question everybody asks, Piercing Light or Perforator. Piercing Light is better for lower HP Colossus that are less resistant to firearm attacks, so up until you get to Swamp Walker, this is great. Piercing Light is the higher damage per second, but to me, Piercing Light has been surpassed by Perforator. With payout, unless you have already built this or have an abundance of mats, I would not bother. Perforator, to me, is the meta and will be the meta for endgame Hailey Zenith builds. Perforator is the higher overall damage because of payout. Hit a weak point at any point in Zenith besides the last bullet and get 3 seconds of free shots. So in total, when built correctly with the magazine size mods and the substat, you will get 11 shots. That's for higher HP Colossus, so the actual end game of the first Descendant. So to me, Perforator is better, and that is the first weapon that we will cover. I use this for pretty much every Colossus in the game for Zenith. I do not see a reason to put Piercing Light on at all. For our substats, firearm attack, bonus fire attack versus Colossus, firearm critical hit damage, and the ever so daunting 12% rounds per magazine. Now, yes, you can build 11 shots without this, but you will take a negative 10% to your weak point damage. So it is up to you. If you do not want to gamble for the 12%, you will simply change one of the mods that I will show you, and you will still get your 11 shots in total with payout procced. I suggest if you are rolling for this, roll all 4 of these stats until you get 12% rounds per magazine, lock it in, and then go for the rest. If you try to roll this as the later of the 4th substat, you will run out of mats. Moving into our mods, like I said, this is a payout build. What happens with payout? You hit a weak point, rounds are not consumed for 3 seconds. This will get you to a total of 11 shots. This is my Infernal Walker build, so it is a little different than what I would run for the other Colossus due to the fact that he is so resistant to critical hits. So we have our 2 firearm attack mods. We have better insight and better concentration for our critical hit rate and critical hit damage. We have expand weapon charge and concentrate support ammo, which is going to get us to our 8 shots with the gun in Zenith, which will get us to 11 with payout. Like I said, if you do not have the 12%, you can simply switch to compulsive magazine. This will give you the 11 shots, but you will lose weak point damage. For some, that might not matter. For me, I prefer the weak point damage. I am trying to do the fastest runs possible, and I am aiming for the weak point. With that said, that is why I run have aiming and weak point sight. And here for our critical hit damage, we have chosen to go with charge amplification, as it is actually more damage against Infernal than concentration priority is. Now, for all our other Colossus that I use this against, I simply switch one mod and I put concentration priority back on. Now, there is the build that Vash has come up with, where he has gone for more of the elemental damage route and removed the weak point damage. This is a great setup. I would suggest this for public queue, and if you do not feel confident that you can always hit weak points, which is very difficult. I will put his build on the screen alongside the weak point build, and as you can see, it nets great damage, but if you are hitting the weak points, you will do slightly more damage. I very much like his setup, and I will be building it as well, but when it comes to speedrunning, I will continue to run weak point, as I am very confident in my aim. And now we will cover Piercing Light, which, like I said, has been outclassed by Perforator. This would be good up until Swamp Walker, but past that, I would not put this on. Firearm attack, firearm critical hit damage, weak point damage, bonus firearm attack versus Colossus. And this is a weak point expansion build. We have our normal firearm attack builds, our firearm critical hit rate, critical hit damage, and our weak point mod. And also we have concentrate support ammo, which is going to give us a 5th shot, which isn't bad to have. I like keeping this on. And lastly, our Inversion Reinforcement. Not too much is important here. Heightened sensory cells is probably the big one. So it'll restore you some health when you're getting attacked by his initial attacks. Chill focus rounds is nice if you are running the chill damage setup like Vash is. And we will talk about this quantum domain, and this is very usable whether in the low cooldown build or the build with horrible cooldown for burst. Basically, when you spawn into the Colossus, instantly go into your Zenith, come out of it, proc your Cold Fury, turn it off, use your 1. You will not have your 1 back on the horrible cooldown build. Make your way to the Colossus, proc Cold Fury again, then you will be going into Zenith again, then you will be using your 1 ability. So this will get you 6 stacks of this, which isn't too bad. And hopefully I covered everything. I tried to get it all in this one video. Any questions or suggestions about the builds, let me know in the comments. Like and subscribe is appreciated. If you're not in the Discord, get in it. We are growing with a great community for TFD. And be sure to stop by the Twitch stream. Always looking to play with my community. Links are in the description. Thanks, guys. Peace.